You're not like most men. You don't just scroll, you study. You don't just parent, you lead. And you don't just read, you implement. And that's why we made this, a no-fluff, battle-tested list of books that sharpen men like you. Picked by our tribe, proven in real life, these books are gonna stretch your mind, fuel your growth, and challenge who you thought you had to be. These aren't just great reads. They're tools to help you grow as a father, husband, and a man. Get the list and all the insights that bring it to life at frontrowdads.com/books. Rich, welcome to the Front Row Dads podcast, man. I'm looking forward to this chat.
I'm so excited to be here. This has been a little while in the making and one I've really been looking forward to, John.
Yeah. So when you look at the Legado family framework, let's talk about, is there a foundational element to that program? Because there's a lot of pieces to it, but is there a starting place? Or maybe it was when you built it, or maybe you feel there is one now.
Yeah, there definitively is. And maybe I could go through I feel really prompted to talk particularly about the fourth pillar today. So maybe what I could do is just highlight what the platform is, what the framework is. I mean, gosh, what if I just had this when I started? Oh, my heavens, the brain damage it would have solved. So maybe I could go through the platform, but I think particularly I'd like to talk in what time we have on the rites of passage and putting that in place very deeply for your family. So would you like me, John, to just quickly go through what the framework is? And then we spend most of our time on what I call rites of passage.
Please, yeah.
Okay, the platform of this has to start with values. Any organization or institution that survives and thrives has to have clearly defined values. John, Front Row Dads has values. Businesses have values. My SUU Thunderbirds education institution, very clearly defined values. The U.S. has values. The Quanah Clubs has values. For crying out loud, the Bloods and the Crips and M13 have values. Have you taken the time to clearly define and understand what the values are in your family? What are you going for? I've already mentioned several of the key ones for my wife, and you have to do that before you do anything. Otherwise, you're just like building on unsure foundations. Equally important to this platform of values is what values you throw away, because every single family I've worked with, and in all transparency, many of the families I'm working with are very, very wealthy or influential families, at least on a personal level. But we also carry junk. So what values do you need to throw away? In my family, guilt and shame was used like peanut butter and jelly. Throw a little bit of scarcity in there and you got it all stirred up. So what values were passed into you through either genes or learned behaviors that you need to very deliberately extract from your family? So that's the platform of where everything starts.
Let's talk about the rites of passage. And this is particularly interesting for me too, as my son is about to turn 13. We've had these discussions in the group about rites of passage. I think there's some really creative approaches to this. Let's talk about, what are your feelings around rites of passage?
Super. If I could do this, paint the framework, and then I'll jump into rites of passage and dig on that. Because would that be okay?
Please.
Any institution that endures, anyone that actually holds any weight that survives has to have values defined. And then on top of that, they put symbols. Do you have a family logo? Do you have a family mascot? Do you know what your colors are? So symbols. Doctrine, what's the defining doctrine? Do you have mission statements, mantras, slogans? Do you have that in your life? The third is traditions, cadences of traditions that are really deliberately put in your family. So those are the first three that are required to endure. You'll never find an institution ever, whether it's religious or governmental or educational or any of those, have all of those. And I put those deliberately in my family, walk you through doing that. But the cement, the ultra glue cement that I put in was this rites of passage concept number 4, followed with the work that Scott Ford does is how do you implement financially and get all the structure in place so you don't screw up your generations forever. That was Garrett's work with family constitution. So those are the 5 that go on top. And we'll jump into number 4, rites of passage.
Great. Thank you for putting that frame together. That was really good. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the Legado framework.
This isn't
right
your
there.
first rodeo, Rich. You're like you're like the perfect podcast guest, because I can ask any question and you'll just course correct me. You'll just get us back on track. So
Well, it's very
done,
evident.
Rich.
You're the jam. You know what you're doing, and I love your group.
This is cool.
So back down into rites of passage, I considered this the epoxy cement that would never undo the values with my kids. And so based on what the values were of like they'll come out here. So, and it's probably worth writing these ages down, irrespective if you engage what we're doing or not, is the critical ages I did the research on was 8. 8 is the age where the amygdala kind of starts closing, the soft spot, and kids start self-operating. So that's out of like early childhood. The next is 12. That's puberty. 14 is when kids make the right decisions or making course decisions. It's not 16, it's 14. 16 is the age when career starts taking place. And then 18 is when every son must kill his father and every mother must leave her daughter. And so we put in each one of those ages very significant rites of passage. I pre-apologize because I overbaked this. You don't have to overbake it to this level, but I definitely overbaked it. And people go, I can never go that extreme. Well, like Ben Greenfield, I'm never going to go that physical biohacking extreme either, but it doesn't mean I can't learn. So with that context, let me jump in and share kind of the rites of passage that we put in place with our values. 8 years old, 8 is great date. One-on-one date with our kids, super simple. They get to pick dinner for the first time. You go eat a god-awful dinner and then go into a private location and have open, complete dialogue as deep as they're ready to go on sex, on drugs, on bullying, on use of technology, and open the dialogue and never end it. Open, complete, transparent dialogue in our family. So that's 8 is great. 12 years old, we call that the non-entitlement trip. So I took each one of my children to a third world country for 3 weeks. The first week we go ride elephants in India and go to the Taj Mahal or go to the Pokemon Center in Japan or go some crazy cool place and have a world-changing experience that most adults don't have. The second week, we go into a Mother Teresa orphanage or go into Kathmandu and Nepal and hold the little lost girls that had been rescued from either sexual slavery or being killed for their organ harvest in India and China, and touch humanity on a very deep and visceral level. You don't come out of that age, 12 years old, and not have a context of humanity. It squishes all entitlement dead out of you. On the third week, we travel home and talk about what does it mean to be a Christiansen man? Protect, provide safe space for women, and fix a lot of shit. That's what Christiansen men do, for right or wrong. That was kind of our values. And so instantly at that point, my sons then have the context, fixing dad, providing dad, seeing me going on a trip and safe space for women, dad. So it gives them a context of what does it mean to be a Christiansen man, and your values will be different than ours, but nonetheless, it's really profoundly effective. Zero entitlement from any of my kids from day one. 14 years old, every one of my sons has been on a major world mountain peak with my wife. My wife and I do that one together. That is the private victory, not public victory. I don't want my sons throwing the winning football touchdown at 14 and chasing that the rest of their life. And getting carried off on the crowd shoulder. I want it done in private, doing really hard things and getting the strength and the inside rather than externally having to look for affirmations and attention. So each one of my sons have done very, very, very hard things and have capacity internally to stand alone when they need to. That's the private victory, not public victory, and being able to I'm not going to go down that path when friends and peer pressure come in. 16-year-old, I think, is particularly interesting and titled into one of our major programs that has got a lot of attention. I think your group will be really interested. My sons each, and here's my zigzag principle, bootstrap entrepreneur guy coming out, but my sons each committed to me that never again will they ask for anything. As a matter of fact, at 16, they take responsibility for paying for their own college, their own mission, paying for the family vacations, paying for the family dinners from that point forward. But what I will help them do is create a business. Each one of my sons created $1 million business when they were in high school. My first son created one. My second son created two. My third son created a really fun enduring one. My fourth son was done, saved for everything by the time he was like 13. And so he says, Dad, we've done that. I'm kind of bored of that. I've created 7 businesses already. I got it saved. Will you write a book with me? So Toast Turned Purple was written with my son, Timmy, and he became a best-selling author. True, it was only Amazon, but nonetheless, best-selling author at 16. My son, Alex, was done by the age of 9, kept doing them, but then when it came his age, he's actually the one that set and built the studio up. How much do I ever have to worry about my children living in my basement and not contributing? Who buys lunch? Matthew called me up to go putting last night and says, Dad, I know you can't swing a golf club yet. Let's go putting. Who buys dinner when we get done? It's not me. If I had daughters, I wouldn't be freaked out and worried about them being with, what is that terrible thing, like fans only or whatever. It's just not on the table. They learn to be strong, independent, career, take control at 16 and become we call that futurepreneurs, teaching your children and modeling through to teach them to take control of their own destiny. So then we do something very interesting that makes people's mouths fall open because we actually killed the business. When they turn 18, we shut the business down and contribute all the excess funds back to charity, the one when they were like 12 years old. And then they go and spend 2 years serving humanity, learning another language. By the way, this is the hardest of all the rites of passage for us and for them. But they'll go off for 2 years and just deeply, deeply serve humanity, learning another language. And when they come back, my sons are totally my peers. I ask advice from them as often as they from me, and they're my dearest friends. And they're no longer like 20. They come back as 45, 50-year-old mature men. And I don't need to go into recount the successes they've had, but we'll put it this way. It's been beyond remarkable. The success, what they've had in their career, you wouldn't believe it if I shared with you. And so I did vote one interesting one on a couple of years ago, and this was a young adulthood. It was you deserve a second chance. I deserve a second chance. We all deserve a second chance. I take them into a level 4 security prison, and we spend 2 days teaching fatherhood and entrepreneurship. And after coming out of that, you realize that most of the guys in there did not have even a first chance. And I then apologize to my sons and say, I'm so sorry, sons. My generation really dorked it up. We really boofed this. We've messed up the environment. We got misogyny going on. Our political system's all divisive. And we created social problems like this. Sorry. Now it's your responsible to fix this. And so kind of pass the baton to them to solve some of these really big hairball social issues and social injustices. And that's the rites of passage, brother. That's the rites of passage and the power that comes out of implementing. And I know we ended with the PhD part of it, but every family I've worked with ends up with even funner, better. Like, I worked with one billionaire family 2 weeks ago, and literally he stood up, threw his arms in the air and says, this is the first time in my life I have not been afraid that my wealth will mess my family up. And his wife literally came up and started dancing around and kissing him on the cheeks when they came up with the 14 and the 16-year-old rites of passage in their family. And it's the bomb. It's just the bomb what families are doing. One family out in Australia, Native American, they're paddling a canoe to where their father got saved from the cannibals and talking about, it's just crazy what you can do if you put a little forethought in to create these.
So let me see if I can just repeat back quickly what I just heard. So there's at ages 8, 12, 14, 16, and 18, these are the milestones. 8, you open a conversation. You essentially say, hey, here's some really big things that we could talk about. This is the start of the conversation. Age appropriate, kid appropriate, perhaps is a way to say it, right? You know your child, but you're opening up the convo and it never closes down. 12, this is the time when you're taking them to a third world country, a 3-week trip, and essentially it sounds like fun on week 1, serving on week 2, right? Squashing entitlement, and then some values. What does it mean to be a Christiansen kid? And then, and correct me if I'm wrong on any of these, I'm just doing a quick high level summary as I heard it. And then 14, you're summiting some mountain somewhere. And I think I heard maybe you were on Everest
3 times.
Yeah.
3 times we've stared up the throat of Everest. I've had a kid on top, 2 kids on top of Kilimanjaro. We've looked down on Huayna Picchu. So hard stuff. We're talking balling yourself to the top of the mountain, hard stuff.
Yeah. Big stuff. And that's a private victory. And then 16, they're creating a business and they're starting to own their financial world. They're paying for things. They are, right? They're paying for lunches, college. They're saving up. They're taking care of themselves. And 18, you sell the business off.
Close it down. Give any excess money to the charity that they might have connected with when they were 12.
Yeah.
And then they're spending 2 years abroad somewhere, learning another language, giving to the world, serving. Did I roughly get it?
You got it. You nailed it. You dead nailed it. And the big question people ask is, why would you ever kill the business? I do not want my sons underneath my wings. I want them to be their own men.
Rich, what do men need to do right now? Their interest is piqued. They're like, man, I really appreciate Rich. These are solid principles that I've heard. I know there's a lot more here. Where do I go from here? What am I doing next?
Go to legadofamily.com, Legado family.com, and you can find a lot more information out there. If you want to reach out or contact, you can reach out. Is it info@legadofamily.com, Tam? hello@legadofamily.com. And quite frankly, if you want some more information, then let me come back and I'll go a little deeper with you.
That's great.
So,
well, great, Rich. This is awesome. I'm not going to try to cram a bunch more questions in here towards the end. I'm going to leave some breathing room and just say, let's reunite again in the future and take that next step and figure out how we can keep bringing these incredible principles and ideas and frameworks to the Front Row Dad community. So thank you for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening today, fellas. If you got value from this episode, I ask that you take 1 second right now and you share this with another dad in your life that you respect, that you know is committed to becoming a better man, family man, and businessman. And on that note, I want to honor you for choosing growth. Your family will thank you years from now for all the effort that you're putting in to learn the strategies so you can show up more fully for them today. Take care.